My name is Erica Rodriguez, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy for professional athletes, and this is Her Table.
Now you see her.
You are magnificent!
Welcome to Her Table, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the badass women who are redefining the game. Join hosts Kate Foley and Megan Martinez as they unlock the secrets of success from the brightest female pioneers in the industry. Whether you're a young woman aspiring to break into the sports industry or a seasoned professional looking for fresh inspiration, come on and grab a seat at Her Table, where women's voices are amplified, dreams are realized, and the game is changed.
You must always have faith in yourself.
Seek out strong women to befriend, to learn from, to be inspired by.
Women need a seat at the table, and in some cases, they need to create their own table.
We are so excited to have Dr. Erica Rodriguez on. I think she is such an inspiration for young Hispanic women. She graduated from Wayland Baptist University and then also earned her doctorate degree from University of North Texas.
Shout out West Texas.
And she owns Fourth Quarter Recovery.
Fourth Quarter Recovery is really focused on making sure your favorite athletes can stay on the field or get back to the court. She focuses on preventative care, load management, and then also post-injury care, which is fantastic because every one of our favorite athletes, unfortunately, has some type of setback. I can't wait to get into how she got to this place because I know she was at a clinic.
Yep.
And then from the clinic, she's kind of started her own thing, blazing her own path with Fourth Quarter Recovery. Yep. Multi-sport athlete.
Yep. She works with athletes from the NBA, from the NFL, from the WNBA, and just elite high school athletes in general. And that's such an incredible feat to have.
All from Dallas, Texas. Cannot wait to have our new friend, Dr. E, on the show today and let her walk us through what makes elite athletes be able to maintain their career on the field and on the court. Well, we're so excited to have you here. Should we call you Dr. Erica, Dr. Rodriguez? Like, what are you're much higher than we are over here on the scale of school. So let us know how we should come correct.
You can call me Erica or Dr. E.
Dr. E. Dr. E. I'm loving
that.
Dr. E.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
No, well, we're so excited to have you here on Her Table. I have seen you all over the country from NFL to NBA to WNBA. You were just at the Wings game. I mean, I cannot wait to dig into your story. You are from Dallas, Texas, or Fort Worth, as we just learned, right?
Yes.
And so you're based there. So what kind of is your day-to-day? I mean, I love medicine. I think it's the one place in sports we don't give enough credit to because from a mental health capacity to a physical health capacity, you are the person that keeps all these men and women running. So what is that like for you?
It's good and busy. I work with different seasons, so it just kind of depends on what season I'm in. Right now, I'm doing more NFL in season with the Cowboys. And then I'm also doing like elite basketball, high school. My college guys only come back every now and then since they're already in school. And then just got done getting some of my NBA guys ready for training camp. So as the year goes, the seasons change just a little bit. Right. It'll change like when NBA guys are in off season, when NFL's in off season. And so when the NFL's more in off season, I see a bunch of guys from different teams that spend, off season here in the Dallas area. So I'll work with them. But now in season, I have guys that play kind of all over the NFL.
That's awesome. So what kind of stuff do you do with your athletes? Like, what's your job? What are you helping them get through? What are you focusing on?
So I mainly focus on injury management. I do a lot of injury preventative type stuff with them. And then also I do just basic recovery. So as far as that, it can look like, managing their bodies throughout season, doing rehab type things during season or during their rehab to just help them prevent injuries and be more durable during season. And then recovery is a lot more for athletes that are not injured. So they're just, coming in with me, doing things to kind of maintain their bodies and make sure they're ready for the next practice or game.
Okay, so you're at fourth quarter recovery, right? That's the name. That's where your home base? Is that your company? Is that your brainchild? What is that?
Yes. So I'm the owner of Fourth Quarter Recovery. I established it in 2020. And I used to work in like a orthopedic outpatient clinic, and then I just decided to pursue my own business, and I started
Props.
Fourth
Boss
Quarter
woman right
Recovery,
here.
and
Boss woman right here.
yeah, I've been doing that, ever since. I kind of did both for about 8 months while I was trying to get it off the ground. So I still worked in clinic. Outside of those hours, I was trying to build up Fourth Quarter Recovery. And then when the time came around, it was kind of, I believe in March of 2021, I decided to just quit my clinic position and pursue Fourth Quarter Recovery full time. So that's what I've been doing. And right now, I'm like a one-woman show. Like, I do everything for the business, the social media, like trying to keep up with everything until, I get to a point where I'm ready to hire out for those different positions.
I love the name. Where did it come from? You have to give me this tea on that. Fourth quarter is like, for me, it's like, it's end of the game. It's make or break. Like, it's go big, go home. Like, it's what decides who's walking out of here happy and who's walking out of here with an opportunity to do better. So what does fourth quarter recovery mean to you?
So fourth quarter is just something that has always like stuck with me. I played sports like my whole life, and basketball was always like a big part of my life. And I played college basketball, and I've just carried it with me throughout life. So ever since I was younger, my dad kind of coached me when I was in my younger days. And then as I progressed, obviously my parents never missed a game, but my dad, anytime that he was like sitting in the stands, when he wasn't my coach, he would look at me and he would hold up like a 4, and he would be like, okay, it's fourth quarter, like it's time to turn it on.
Oh wait, that's really cool.
And I just knew, like, he would always tell me that, like, fourth quarter, like, and I knew that he meant like, hey, it's time to turn it up. Like, and so that kind of I knew I always wanted that to be, whatever business I decided to do. I mean, I knew physical therapy was already in my life. And then when I decided to pursue that, it was like a no-brainer to put fourth quarter in it, and then fourth quarter in it. And then I just added fourth quarter recovery, and now I feel like it's very clear on what I do. Fourth quarter is automatically associated with athletes. And then I just added the recovery aspect for them to know, that I'm helping with sports recovery and rehab and things like that. So that's kind of where I got the idea to put the name Fourth Quarter in it. And I think it's really cool because I have a good relationship and close relationship with my parents. And I feel like without them, I would not be where I am, because they've done everything to try to set me up for success and have always been there and encouraged me. So it's cool to have that as a part of my name, like this directly associated with my dad. And I mean, he was always like he made me super competitive, and he was always pushing me to do my best. And I think that it's cool that it's kind of associated with him.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I love it. I always find that, like, when you have something that's like personal to you and it has a message that it's instilled in you, or it's something that's meaningful to you, when you have those moments that are like really hard. We talk all the time with entrepreneurs on the show about how, like, it's not easy. It is not easy to be a woman in sports. It's not easy to own your own company, and it dang sure isn't easy to make it all work. So like when you have something where you're like, okay, I'm doing this, this is my why, right? Like, you have that. And so when you struggle or you have that moment, it gives you an opportunity to reflect back and be like, this isn't just me, this is for something else. So I want to dig in a little bit into your story. So you played basketball growing up, went to college, played basketball. So walk us through that, and then how you ended up where you are.
Okay, perfect. So I actually grew up playing multiple sports. I've always been into that. So when I got into high school, I just continued to play volleyball and basketball.
Okay.
But I always knew that I was going to go on to play basketball. It was just kind of a given, but I enjoyed playing volleyball, and I felt like it was just something that also made me a better basketball player. It helped me with my vertical and stuff like that. And just like the multi-sport angle is true, like it develops different muscles. So then when basketball came around, I obviously played that during season, and then I always knew that I was going to go off and play somewhere else. So I ended up going to Wayland Baptist University.
I know where
I played
Wayland
there.
Baptist is. I love it. The world
Yeah,
connects.
so I played there, and then I actually sustained an injury while I was there. And it was, I tore my ACL. I tore a couple of other things. It was not the easiest recovery.
Wow.
And so I had to do a lot of rehab, physical therapy. I spent a lot of time with my athletic trainer at the school. And I always knew that I either wanted to continue to play basketball or pursue something that was related to sports. So after seeing that aspect of it, I felt like at the time, there wasn't a lot of options for like women's sports and where to go next. And it wasn't like worth changing your path to try to continue to figure out what you're going to do with it. And so I ended up, getting my major in exercise sports science. And then I minored in biology there. So that way it would set me up to try to get into physical therapy school. And then I got into UNT North Science Center in Fort Worth. So
Go Greenway.
I did my I did my undergrad at Wayland Baptist, and then I went to pursue my doctorate at UNT North Texas. So that was here in Fort Worth.
I feel
But that's kind of what got
right
me
now.
into it.
We have the doctor on. I feel like I need to sit up a little
I know.
straighter. I
That's
need
so
to
true. I feel like it's so interesting because when you go over, like, maybe it was the ACL tear, was other injuries, there was something that happened that kind of led you to want to become a doctor, I feel like. And that's so important. And I feel like athletes are like, people forget how much, like, how hard it is to be an athlete and how much, pain your body takes. And I feel like something to touch on, like, how important is it to focus on recovery after athletes are going full out in the fourth quarter to like win the game, but like how important is it for the recovery for those athletes?
It's really important. If you talk to any athlete, like, I feel like a lot of people started paying attention to when LeBron James said he spent like $1 million a year on his body.
Yeah.
People kind of like turn their
What?
head and
Yeah.
like, oh, really? But, nobody has seen like all the behind the scenes stuff he probably does with his trainers,
Yep.
his physical therapists, his team of people, until he said it like that people kind of took notice. But it's like thinking about how else is he going to play at this level, at this age, without doing anything to take care of his body. I mean, there's so many aspects that come in. And the way that I explain to my younger athletes is like, you already have a skills trainer, you have a strength and conditioning coach, you have a coach at school, like you play summer basketball, you play all year, you're investing in all other aspects of your game. Why are you not investing in your body, which ultimately is going to decide how long you get to play and also how well you perform. So if you're not feeling at your best, you're going to go out there, or if you're having aches and pains, or if you have an injury, your performance is going to decline. And so if we don't start taking care of it at an early age, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to carry on to and play as long as you would like to in your career. Because most of even the younger guys that I work with, or girls, their ambition is to be a professional. So I kind of instill that in them when they're a little bit younger, that we need to consider what we're doing with our body, even if it's things they can't control, like sleep, what they eat, how much water they're drinking. I just try to educate them on other aspects that they can control, and they don't need somebody as like me to help them. Like, sleep is something that they can take on their own, which is super important for recovery.
No, I think it's so important. There's a lot of young athletes that I see you working with, and I think it's awesome to see the shift. And so many times we talk about professional athletes, sometimes they have a negative impact, right, on what the life is or the lifestyle is. And then you have athletes like LeBron that talk about, what you put in your body is what you get out. And so to see people celebrate like, hey, like there's a lifestyle side to this, and then there's the commitment side to this, which is actually what you're telling me and what you're doing are two different things. And so I think it's so important for you to talk about, how hard is that? Like you're talking about 16-year-old kids. Like, let's be real. How do you get them to like buy in? I think in my world, I can tell if you're going to buy in or buy out quickly based upon how much, not necessarily coaching, but reiteration you need of what it's going to take for you to get where you want to go. How hard is that from your like Cowboys players to your 16-year-old? There's a wide range of what you got going on in a day.
Yeah.
How hard is that to keep yourself motivated as you struggle between, a 16-year-old and a 26-year-old and the different levels and places they are in their life?
Yeah, I feel like with my younger athletes, they have started to realize like that guys that have done really well, they can look into kind of how their path went, and they can see that they've taken, their body seriously, or they can see that they have a whole team of people helping them. So for them, their motivation that I use with them is like, hey, if you want to get here, like you have to move different than everybody else. And the 1% behaves this way. And so that's how we're going to get there, is doing the things that they do in order for you to be at the highest level as possible. And I feel like sometimes, when I was younger, we didn't have stuff like this. Like nobody was there trying to help you with anything. And so I'm like, wow, what an opportunity it is for them to have all these aspects to get them to the highest level possible. So I feel like with my younger professionals, I have the same issue with them. Sometimes they're pro athletes, they're in their first or second year, their bodies are bouncing back easy. So they're like, I don't need anything. Or they have other things going on that they might deem more important that they'll go to instead of doing their sessions. So what usually happens is either they end up hurting themselves or tweaking something, and then they realize, oh, I got to take this more seriously. And so I think, just trying to give them as much education as possible beforehand so they don't wait until they're vets in their pro careers to kind of start taking it more seriously. But yeah, it is challenging because I feel like when you're younger, like you think you're invincible, like, and if your body's feeling good, you think, I don't have to do anything. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's, that can be challenging, not so much as a high school level, because I feel like at the high school level, I have like the parents that back me up more, and they like make sure that their schedules fit this in. Whereas when I get to my younger professionals, there's nobody else managing what they're going to do. So I feel like I have more challenge with that than I do with my high school kids, because the parents understand and get it. So they make time and kind of line their schedules up so that way there's time to do their recovery or their injury prevention work, or even their injury management work. So that's what I feel like has been the challenge.
Yeah.
I think it's like fair and spot on. I always find that like the first 1 through 3 in the professional career is like the most pivotal. You're going to fail really hard, and then you're going to either figure it out or you're not. And so I think it's, you hit on it, right? There's no one telling you what to do anymore.
Right.
You're a professional, so you're expected to know what to do. Do you ever find yourself in a place where, you've been with them, maybe you've been with them through high school, you kind of are that sounding board for them. Do you ever find yourself in a place where it's like, they might need a little motivation, they might need a pat on the back or a kick in the hiney, and you are kind of that sound person that's like, you don't want anything from me, I just want the best from you and for you. Do you ever find yourself in that position as a woman?
Yes, definitely. And I feel like the parents depend on me as well, because if they see their routine or what they're doing every day and they know, hey, you're not doing their exercises that you gave them, they're not doing this that you told them they're supposed to be doing. But then when the parents tell them, my guys or girls, they're just like annoyed. Like,
Yeah,
"Don't tell me what to
whatever.
do. I
Okay,
don't
thanks,
know."
mom.
For sure.
Yeah, you don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, you've never been at this level kind of thing. So I always come back and like reinforce,
Yeah.
what I told them, and not in a, there's just a certain way to approach it, but I just talk to them in a serious way and just kind of reiterate like the 1% acts different. And this is why, you have to do all these things in order to get there. And I'm really honest with them and straightforward. And I guess that's why I feel like they take me more seriously, because I'm not going to tell them something that I don't feel like it's going to help.
Right.
And I think after a while of building that relationship and building that trust, then they do trust my word. And it also helps that they see me work with athletes where they want to be.
Right.
So when they know that those guys listen to me with no issues, then they're like, okay,
You're not that
I'll do
cool.
it.
Yeah, you're not that cool that you can't do it. If they
Right.
can, where are you at?
Yeah.
So you you
Exactly.
talked about your injury. Do you feel like I sometimes, and we've had this a lot on our show, there's that like aha moment where you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you talked earlier about how when you were in school, this wasn't an opportunity for you. Like there wasn't a lot of female doctor candidates, right? And even physiotherapists working with men's and women's sports. What do you feel like? Did you have that aha moment? Was that when you got injured of like, I love sports, I love the mechanics of fixing things and watching them progress? Like, did you have an aha moment that led you to where you are?
I feel like that injury definitely opened my eyes to getting to be involved with sports afterwards, and not actually playing the sport. So it was something that was very close. And then after going through it, I did like the fact that it was active. Like I got to help with that. I knew that I would help with like rehab plans and helping somebody come from almost the lowest point after feeling that to back on the court and back playing again and reaching their goals. I feel like that is a very hard time to go through as an athlete, because you're not playing the sport that you always played, that you put so much time into. It's like you have this huge moment that just stops you in your tracks, and you go from, being this big athlete that can do everything to almost having to relearn how to walk again. So I feel like that process I saw was super important, and just realizing that it's really important to have the right people to help you to get back to where you want to be, because you can also not get back to where you want to be, and it could fall back on the people that you decided to work with. So after, seeing that and seeing people go through their rehab, I just realized that was definitely something that I wanted to be a part of. And I wanted to see other people reach their goals and get back on the court or the field and not have any restrictions because of their bodies.
Wow. Well, I feel like being a doctor is a pretty cool accomplishment. Downplaying it, we're like so impressed right now. It's definitely not an easy task. And so I guess I would love to ask, what advice would you give your younger self or somebody who wants to be in your position one day?
Definitely. It is hard. Like undergrad was not that bad, I would say. And even being an athlete, that was kind of challenging to manage your classes and schedule while being an athlete. But as far as after that point and getting into the doctorate level, it was very hard. Like as far as the school, it was tough to get through. It wasn't easy. So I feel like if you're unsure, you'll never make it through the doctor of physical therapy program. Like you have to be really sure that that's what you want to do. And then once you're there, I feel like it's just getting a better study habit down. I remember them telling us when we were in school, hey, like all of you are here because you are smart and y'all breezed through undergrad and y'all still made A's or whatever, but they were like, that's not going to work here. Like if you do not.
Then we're out. Megan and I are out. We're good. We went. We had first class. Thank you. It's been fun.
They were just like, if you do not have the proper study habits and you're not applying yourself to your full capacity, you will not pass. And they were honest. Like, I mean, that was brutally honest that you needed to hear. And I remember, some of us are coming right out of undergrad. So people took their parents or, whoever was there.
Wow.
And so they, told our parents, family members. Some people were like in relationships or like maybe married. So that some of them, because some people were a little bit older when they started the program, so they might have already had a spouse. And so they just kind of told them, hey, like, this isn't going to work if you're not completely supportive, and don't be asking them to do all these things because they will not pass this program. So like, if you expect them to behave like they normally have for the last couple of years, like, it's not going to happen. And if you're not understanding of that, then you're either going to be divorced or lose a relationship, or, you just have to kind of put that on hold for a couple of years to allow them to get through this program because it's hard. And so I remember hearing that.
That is so intense. Were you like,
Intimidating.
bring it on? Or were you like, I might need to rethink my life tonight and come back and get back to you tomorrow? Like, which were you? One or the other?
No, I was ready. Like, I was like, okay, like, let's see how it's going to be. And I feel like I was kind of like, oh, it's not going to be that hard.
Yeah.
Like, I just like thought, I knew it was going to be tough, but at that point I didn't realize like what they were telling us. But the department chair of our program, he was just very honest. And then when I got to my first anatomy class and I went through that, like the first lecture, I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. Like, it was just so much, like, it was so much information, and it was so fast paced. And I feel like at that point, you think that everybody's like much smarter than you are, or knows more than you. And so you kind of have that doubt, like, I don't know, why did they pick me to be here? Like, because that's the other aspect of physical therapy school. It's really hard to get into.
Okay.
There's not very many programs. Now I think there's more because they're starting to try this hybrid type style. But back then there was maybe 13 physical therapy schools in Texas around. And each class had about 25 to 50 students. So that was like who started for that year. It was like one group started per year. So I feel like the spots were super limited, and it was hard to even get accepted into physical therapy school. So that was like one of the biggest barriers back then was, okay, like, there's not very many schools in Texas, and then you have other states that are coming in because maybe their state only has one or two physical therapy schools. So that was probably one of the most challenging things is getting in. And then on top of that, after you get in, it's really tough.
Can you break down for us, for those of us that need a little more education on the difference of sports science? So you went to undergrad and got a degree in biology, and correct, and exercise science. And then you went on to get your doctorate in physical therapy. So what are you allowed to do as a physical therapist that you wouldn't be allowed to do as, say, an athletic trainer, right? Like, what's the difference between those things for the people that are like, okay, I want to be an athletic trainer, but there's more to where I can continue to grow and educate, or to those that want to go to physical therapy? Because most physical therapists that I know of were in like PT clinics, right? Yeah. Like they were in like, you had an injury, you had surgery, and now you got to go to physical therapy 3 days a week, to now what you're doing, which is athletes can hire you out individually of anyone, of a school, of a high school, of a college, of pro, to help them maintain their body to be able to perform. What's the difference between the two? And what's the pro and con between the two?
Okay. So the way I usually describe it when, I have a lot of students that are in undergrad, or maybe they're already in physical therapy school, like reach out to me and ask me questions. They kind of want to know, like, how do you do this? Like, I want to do what you're doing, or this is kind of what I want to pursue with my career. And for somebody that's unsure, I would say that athletic trainers are more like the first response out on the field. So typically, as a physical therapist, you're not waiting for the injury to happen and running out there. You kind of see them after that. And so I feel like that is one of the biggest differences, because a lot of the stuff may overlap.
Yeah.
But I feel like as far as like the first response on the field, determining, hey, this guy needs an x-ray, this guy, needs this, or needs to go see the orthopedic. they kind of make that decision at the school level. And typically the schools hire athletic trainers.
Yep.
You know, as for high school, even college, a lot of times they might have a dual, like you can be an athletic trainer and a physical therapist. It just takes time. But I feel like for the most part, teams hire athletic trainers, and physical therapists are either somebody they might contract in, or they send them out to a specific clinic that handles their stuff. So I think that's the biggest difference, is like you're going to be there for the sports team as an athletic trainer, and as a physical therapist, there's a lot of variability on what you can do. You know, you could definitely be totally out of sports and not have anything to do with that. I just decided to pursue the sports side because that's what I was more passionate about. The athletic trainers, I would say one of the things as far as when they work on a team compared to just a normal physical therapist that might not be in sports would be the hours. They have to do a lot of hours. They have to be there before the team, during the games, after the games. I feel like all the taping, like all the taping, ankles and stuff like that is more athletic training realm. Like I don't ever really tape ankles, and that's something, or, you know, they do like all the pre-tape things for the athletes. That's something that I just don't really do. So I think that's another difference. And a lot of times when I was in, like, as far as like high school athletic training, comparing that, a lot of times the athletic trainer will kind of ask me like, hey, what do you want them to be doing right now? Like, as far as like rehab goes. And some of them are more confident and comfortable with what they want to do in rehab, but some of them rather have guidance from the physical therapist. So I just feel like it's dependent on the individual. But I personally think, and which everybody might not agree, but I personally think physical therapists are more in depth with rehab, and athletic trainers are more like a first response and kind of handling the everyday like task of, you know, prepping them for practice and things like that. So I think that's two of the biggest differences. Is I feel like as a physical therapist, like rehab and the rehab process and timelines are like what I'm the best at, besides like differential diagnosis and stuff like that.
Sounds like it's like a happy medium. Like you can't have one without the other, and both need each other to support and to win. Okay, so I want to dive into a little bit of when you work with pro teams. I know you work with a lot of Cowboys players too. How does that work for you as an independent person? I know obviously the team has their athletic trainers and their physiotherapists and their team doctors and all these things. How does that work for you to work with professional athletes outside of the team aspect, but then in turn inside the team aspect as you become a part of that athlete's team that they then bring to their professional team? Do you ever have any like issues where it's a little bit tough? I mean, I'm sure they might have their way, you might have your way, but how does that work for you?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I work for the athlete. So even though I work for a lot of players that play for certain teams, the athlete is who I have their best interests and who I am there to work for. So as far as that goes, I'm always open to collaboration with people that they work with. And what I have seen, not naming any team in particular, but what I have seen.
Oh, come on. Tell us the team. Come on. It's just us gals here.
What I have seen is some organizations or even individuals that are in those positions do not want to talk to me, or do not want to have anything to do with me, or has had some programs that their head athletic trainers and I have had conversations, or good conversations about the athlete. In my opinion, what I'm more concerned about is what is best for my athlete. And to me, knowing what they're doing out when I'm not with them, or what they're working on, is only going to be beneficial for the athlete. So it shouldn't be about an ego or anything like that. It should just be like, hey, we need to come together because this is what's going to make this athlete at their best. And so that's how the approach that I always take. And I've had some openness with different athletic trainers or head athletic trainers at universities. And then I've had some where there's like, it's not going to happen. And so I just have to, way that I overcome that when it's not open collaboration is I just have to have good communication with my athlete, and I ask them the right questions on what were you doing today, or what have you been doing to make this injury better, or what have you been doing in the athletic training room or with your collaborative group, like up at the team, in order to, tackle this injury. And so just having communication with them, usually they kind of know what they've been doing.
Right.
And then I just come in and try to fill in the stuff that they haven't done, or maybe not have addressed, or maybe take a different approach. And I feel like that's what I've seen the most that has been beneficial for them is I make them sit down and tell me like what they're doing. And then I come in and I'll be like, okay, I see that they haven't done this or looked at this or haven't, done that. And I'll bring in stuff that they haven't seen before, or things that they're not working on, and put it in their plan just to make it whole. And I just kind of go through communication with the athletes, since I don't have direct communication with who they're working with at their facility.
Right. Okay. And then I guess, have you ever always like wanted to own a business? Is it something that kind of developed over time as you like were working? And then on top of that, can you kind of go over what goes into it? We talk about like LLC.
So much.
It's just so impressive.
I bet her insurance liability is probably like a fortune.
That's
unbelievable. I'm with that.
Yeah. So I think that I always knew that I wanted to own my own practice, or not really own my own practice, but just be an entrepreneur in general, whether that have been with the physical therapy route or not. My parents were business owners, and so I've seen them kind of do that. So I feel like that has always like put me onto that type of mindset. They do a bunch of different entrepreneurial things. And so that was something that I was like, oh, I like that. I like the fact that, hey, the harder you work, the more you can get, rather than just doing bare minimum or doing a lot. And so everybody's getting the same. And that I realized like over time that kind of drained me. Like, with it doesn't matter how good you're doing or how hard you work, this is what you're getting no matter what. So it was like there's no motivation to keep getting better or progressing. So I feel like that was a big key in the fact that I wanted to do my own thing. And just like even just being an employee, I feel like I always like noticed things that we could do maybe better, that could be more efficiently. But as a staff, you can't just always be telling and complaining like about stuff like that. So, it's just like, I was like, okay, well, once I have my own business, it's all on me. Like, if I don't like the way things run, it's my fault. And I was okay with that. That's what I preferred, you know? And so after realizing that, I was like, it was like a no-brainer to start my own business. And that's kind of how I got into doing that. And then as far as the next question you were asking
process,
what all it takes.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's a
so
lot.
much.
I was waiting for that.
Like literally life in itself. There's no sleep.
Yes.
You're like, what am I doing today? And then you're on podcasts now. I mean, the world is just evolving today.
I think people, especially like just on social media, people just feel like, man, you just have it easy. Like, you just get all these people and they're all working with you. And it's just like, it looks fun. And it's, it just looks like, okay, I can do this too. And I'm like, that is true. I feel like when you apply yourself, you can do it. But I feel like if you don't have like a really solid work ethic, like, you'll never make it. Like, I worked more than I ever did when I worked for somebody else. And I thought I was working hard then. But I feel like now it's just like, when you work for yourself, it just hits different. Like, yes, you're putting in all these hours, like, and there's some days that you have to deal with the variability of income. Like, for me, I know that happens. And so that's hard for some people. And that's like a no-go for some people. They're not going to like risk, hey, what am I going to make next week? Or not having paid time off. I'm like, hey, if I'm not working, I don't make money. So anytime I leave a work day to do something else, or that I don't have a company sending me a check and be like, okay, well, here's your paid time off. It all falls back on you. And I feel like, it's a lot harder than what it seems, because I feel like people that own businesses, everybody just kind of sees their successful points and, don't really see the struggles or the hours or the sacrifice. It's hard to like show sacrifice, but it happens every day.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, there's some mornings where I'll get up, before the sun comes up and get to a session. And then I might not be getting home till late that night because I'm dealing with people after practice.
Right.
Or say if they play for the same team, I'm having to stack them all in a certain day. And then I'm home like at 11 or 11:30 at night, even though I've been going all day. So the days can be super long. But then say the next day, I only have a couple people lined up. So I think it just varies. And, what I've kind of learned being an entrepreneur is like, when there's abundance, like you have to ride it out, like just take it, even though that you feel like, hey man, I need a break. Like I just go ahead and go through it, because that is not going to be promised next week or the week after. And I feel like that is the hard part, which I'm sure both of y'all can understand. That I mean, Kate, I know I see you flying in and out of places all the time. You're just in Singapore. Like, I know that I see you hustling all the time, and I see you everywhere too. I feel like you're always, in different places as well, trying to
move
get yourself,
and shake.
progress yourself.
Move and shake. That's what I say. Move and shake.
So I definitely know that you understand that as well.
What's been a struggle for you? I think, one of the things I am finding myself really committed to, and Megan and I talk a lot about, is like the balance, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I know people are like, find work-life balance. Like, I don't really believe in that, because there is no perfect pie of work-life balance. I think it's finding ways to incorporate each part of your life integratedly into each other. You just talked about struggles. People don't see it. What's been one of your biggest challenges for you in the medical field?
As far as that, like, I feel like the balance of what you were talking about, I just try to have like personal or friendship group things that I know are like non-negotiable, and I work my schedule around those things.
What are they? Come on down. You got to spill the tea, doctor. What are they? What are some of those? Because some people don't know how to make them. I just sometimes don't know how to make those and stick to them. Those are hard to do.
Yeah, like big events that I know that aren't going to like come back around, like weddings. I went to Ireland this summer for one of my friends that I grew up with. She was getting married out there. And I decided to make it a trip.
Come on.
Yeah, I decided to make it a trip. But that was something that I knew, even though it was going to take a significant time out of me working, that I wanted to be there for.
You can't get it back. Like, you can't get that stuff back. And then you're going to be like, for what?
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm with it. I'm proud of you. Yes, girl. Yes.
I love to travel too. So that was like, I just went ahead and did it. And, things like that, like life events that I know with my inner circle that I would not want to miss, or that they're close with me, and I knew that they would sacrifice the same time for me.
Yeah.
It's just like events like that I know that there's not going to be another opportunity for me to try to go again, so I feel like mine has been more so like closing in like my inner circle of people that I do stuff like that for, and just the people that really don't give me the same time back is kind of who if I have something big going for work, I'm going to do that. And so I feel like it's hard because you can't give 30 people your time. Like so that was one thing, is just kind of sitting down and realizing like who sacrifices for me makes it a point to be here for me. I try to reciprocate that for them. So that's kind of like what I use as far as like, being good at managing like a balance with friends and family over work. Because it can be.
Do you have that same mentality when it comes to clients? I think it's easy to just take on clients because you get the revenue, you get the money. but it's hard to say, like, I'm giving up time for a client that someone else might benefit more from or be more dedicated to or committed to. Do you take that same mentality on when you take on new clients or current clients?
Yeah, I feel like the people that have been really consistent with me over the years, or the people that have been there, my clients that have like carried on with me, I'm going to prioritize them first over new people. And then also, I just have a lot of people that reach out to me that I don't think are necessarily serious. They might be like, I
The
don't know, just like
optics
a
of
younger
it.
high
The
school
optics.
kid.
Yeah.
Or yeah, they just want to say like, oh, I've worked with you and you've worked with so and so, and I can kind of tell if they're serious or not. And I just kind of am more like selective with who I'm gonna offer that time slot to. As far as um, I need somebody that's going to be committed, not just one session and then you want to take some pictures with me there or whatever.
Yeah.
To show that like I want somebody that's like really committed to the process, and those people that are like, I definitely prioritize them. And, if they hit me up and it's Saturday morning and they need something, I'm there. Like, and I'm not going to do that for everybody, but there's certain guys that I work with or athletes that I've been with for a long time that I give up stuff for them. And
time
I
and
know
investment. They'll give it to you, you give
It
it to
is.
them. Yeah, but it's a give and take. I get that.
So, yeah, like if something is serious, like they tweak something and they're like, they have something the next day or that day and it needs to be like a quick, like they know that they can hit me up and at least help them manage it or see what we need to, like what the next step is. And I feel like, that's what's helped me build like solid relationships with them, because I am reliable for the ones that have always like been there with me.
She's
or
loyal,
the
people.
ones that have
Do
worked
not
with
hit
me.
up Dr. E for a picture. She is loyal and she can sniff you fake
Yes.
people out. So yes. Oh, I love it.
No, I was it was really cool when you were talking about your dad, and you were talking about how like during the fourth quarter he like rose his hand and was like, okay, fourth quarter, like turned it on and everything, like relating back to that. I thought it was awesome because my dad is very similar. He's like very hardworking, very aggressive, like very like hard but on us, but also like wants us to be the best version of ourselves. And I feel like something that's really cool, like when it comes to like the Hispanic heritage, you kind of get instilled that you need to work hard your whole life. Family is everything, and you can kind of count on your family to help you out. Something that's so cool is that you are Hispanic in this field. And I just think that's something to touch on, to celebrate. And I guess how important is it to have your representation working, owning your own business, being a doctor. And I think that's something that we should celebrate and kind of show the importance to younger Hispanic women who want to follow your path.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important because just going back, like, I feel like even seeing it at my grandparents' level, like they just didn't have like the same opportunities that being Hispanic or even the education, like it was just not really something that was really instilled, and it was just kind of like just getting by or like just making it, and I feel like at that point there was still like issues with racism and things like that. Not that there isn't now, but that it was like much more real back then, in segregation and stuff like that. And so I feel like seeing that, and then in my line of family, there's just not a lot of people that are highly educated that I'm like closely related to. And I feel like, yeah, part of it is like a minority type aspect. And, it's just important for like those that are minorities to realize like it is possible and you can do it. But not necessarily meaning that you have that support, or that, your grandparents or even your parents went to these big universities or any kind of school. And so, I mean, I feel like I owe a lot of that to my parents. I mean, they don't even, I think they have their associate's degrees, and they just have always pushed me, like education, like they always pushed education. And, you know, I just remember them saying like, hey, like if you don't continue to like progress, and, you know, they were always, my mom was always on me about my grades, even though I was an athlete. Like she was more concerned about like how I did in school. My dad was more about the sport.
Yep.
Happy medium between the two. I love it.
Yeah. And I felt like they both knew like this is what's going to get you the furthest in life. And they kind of always told me like, we don't want you to like struggle like how we struggle.
Right.
And we don't want you to have to do like jobs that you don't like want to, because you don't have the right education. So it's super important to, you know, push yourself and do the best you can in school. So that way you can do something you really enjoy and want to do.
Love that.
So I feel like, you know, just even their aspect of, but they saw the differences and the things that they didn't know maybe too when they were younger. And they just really did a good job of always like pushing me. Like college was never like, oh, maybe I'm going. Like it was never a question. They were like, no, you're going.
Right.
And then she went on to get her doctorate, people. So it was a good push. It was a good push.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They've always encouraged me though. They anytime that I ever brought anything to the table, they never asked or they never questioned me or like, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. Like they were always like, yeah, I know you
love
can do that. Like, and so that has, that support has always been there. And I feel like that's been a big aspect of, you know, my success, because they've always encouraged me. They've never really set limitations on me. One, for being a girl, and, you know, second, being a minority either. They've always just been like, you know, you can do whatever you want to do. And I feel like that has helped me, you know, be where I am today. So I give them a lot of credit.
How important for you, you know, you focus a lot on the physical health of athletes. And I think we could probably say, when you get to work with somebody, you might not be getting the best version of themselves physically or mentally. How is that for you, as far as what you're able to give? Like we always talk about filling your cup and not let it draining you. You get somebody who's hurt. They don't know what their season's going to look like. They don't know how fast they're going to get back. Somebody's coming for my job. And it's a lot of pressure on you. It's misplaced pressure, but it's a lot of pressure on people like you and in the medical industry to get them back. From coaches, from ownership, from teammates, to the player, to the parents. How's that for you? Is that a lot of pressure, and is it something you welcome or something you've had to adjust to learn?
No, it definitely is a lot of pressure. I feel that, you know, working in clinic for those years that I did, I developed my skills as best as possible. And so I feel like that has helped me attain things quicker to like, or make a bigger difference. So where the athlete is happy with what I'm doing. But as far as like dealing with the coach or somebody else that's wanting them to come back, I feel like I just stick to my guns. Like I don't change because of them, because in my like opinion, like I am not going to change their timelines just because I feel like they need to get back. My best interest is with the athlete, and I feel like he might get hurt if he comes back this early. I'm going to say that to him, and I'm not going to be motivated to push him further by a team because I don't work for that team,
right?
You know, and so I think too that's what helps me gain a lot of trust with my athletes is they might hear one thing from the team or organization, and then I tell them, no, like this, I think this is how it is. And they trust me because I have no motivation
no skin in the game, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I just being honest with them. And if I don't think they're ready, I tell them, I don't think you're ready. And they can make that decision if they want to, but I'll tell them, I don't think you should play. Or I think you need to sit out of practice. And, you know, at that point, it's like their decision and the team's decision to decide if they do.
Right.
But I'm going to be honest with them every time.
Yeah,
and I think
good
that
counsel.
Yeah.
The unbiased counsel.
Definitely.
Yeah. So was
definitely.
it when
I think
I saw the other day, Deion Sanders, one of his players, got hurt. and his player wanted to come back. And he's like, Coach, I'm ready. I want to come back. And then to watch Dion say, no, like, you're not coming back till you're ready, is something that's refreshing to me in sports, but it's also something that is that human nature of people seeing athletes for more than a monetary gain. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? Like, everybody's there to put butts in seats and sell tickets and make money, and everybody's a part of an ecosystem. For you, have you ever run into a coach or an organization or a player for that matter, right, that has said, like, I want to be back today, where you've kind of had to stand your ground and really stand on that and say, no, this isn't what's best? Have you had that? And then did they choose you or not choose you, and how did it play out?
Yes, I have that happen with, I feel like, with my elite high schoolers a lot. Because they feel like it's the end of the world to miss like a regular season or a preseason game. And I'm like, that doesn't even matter.
Yes.
And, you know, what I come back to with them is, if you play and you develop this is like a mild injury or moderate. If you play and it turns into a surgical issue, I said, this is going to reduce your chances or cause you problems throughout your professional career. So this one decision could be a lot worse if you ended up playing, rather than if you sit out next week, you're probably almost at 100% next week.
Right.
You know? And so I think when I try to put it in that perspective, but it's still harder for a younger person to understand that, it relates to them a little bit more. Like, I always tell them, like, if we have one more week where you sit, you can be good for the rest of the season. But if you played, you could be out the rest of the season if it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And so I think putting it in that perspective of weighing, like, it could be much worse, but the fact that you don't want to, you know, sit out this 1 week to give you an extra week of healing, you know, the consequences could be much worse. And so I feel like with my younger guys, I kind of like explain to them like that, because a lot of them that I work with, they are D1. They are going to be D1.
They're
they
going.
have a great chance to be pros. And so I'm like, having a surgery this young is going to affect you when you're early pro.
It goes into the file.
You don't want that.
Yep.
Exactly.
It goes
so
into the file.
With them, they relate better to that and trying to remember, what is my end goal? That's what I kind of push to them. And then as far as the professional level, or even at the college level, you're right. Like, if certain players don't play, it takes a hit on the tickets and it takes a hit on sales. And I feel like the athletes do know that. And so, and some of them have told me, well, you know, they've told me, like, if I don't play, like, I have to play.
Stop.
And and I just like reiterate to that. But they're only concerned with what's going on with you, maybe this season or while you're
or today.
At this place.
Or today.
Exactly.
Literally, you could be here today, gone tomorrow. Like, it is
exactly.
the world of
but
sports.
Like, exactly. And I'm like, if your goal is to go beyond this decision could derail you from that goal.
Right.
So, you know, just reminding them also to be advocates for themselves. And I think that's important, you know, because I'm always going to keep it honest with them. I have no benefit in them playing or them not playing.
Right.
And I want what's best for them, truly. And I know they know that. So when the hard decisions come, they always are like, what do you think? And I'll tell them what I think. And then I let you know, it's obviously their decision and the team or university's decision to whether they continue to play or not. But at least they have somebody else that can tell them the truth or tell them where I feel like is the best answer to give them, as far as, you know, for them to make a good decision. Because what I've also noticed that there's a lot of athletes that just don't have other people in their inner circle or people that they trust that know anything about this.
Yeah.
And so they have nobody really else to turn to besides maybe their team doctor or, you know, their team. And I think that's important too, because some of them don't have, you know, a lot of my athletes are a minority as well. And a lot of them don't have that educational circle around them that could help point them in the right direction. and they just don't really know. So they don't have anybody in their circle that they trust that could give them sound advice. And I feel like that's kind of where I come in.
That's awesome.
What's next for you, Dr. E? Because I feel like we could talk to you all day because I want to know more tea. She's given us the we're going to have her back on to get the good tea. What's next for you? What do you want to see fourth quarter recovery become? Like, where are you at today? And then what are your 6-month goals and what are your 6-year goals?
Definitely. So at this point, I'm not sure if I want to eventually have like a facility or if I just want to expand it as like the mobile service that I provide, or both.
Right.
So I feel like right now I'm unsure about that path, but I do know as far as athletes go that I want to have like a core group of athletes that I see throughout the year that I stick with like all year. So it's not like up and down and then hire on staff for any new athletes that come in. So that way, like I'm stuck with, or I'm here with a circle of athletes that I work with all the time and not just randomly taking this person or that person. So that's kind of my goal as far as for what I see personally happening. I would like to get like more contracts with organizations. I think that would be ideal. Like I'm doing a little bit right now with TCU men's basketball. And then I did a little bit this off season with KU men's basketball. So I feel like it's heading there, where the schools are collaborating or universities have collaborated with me some because they've either heard good things about me or the athletes have told them like, hey, this is who I use. And once they see good results, then they're kind of curious about it. So I do like that contract aspect of, them feeling comfortable to reach out to me and to help them take care of some of their athletes. So I do like that aspect, and I hope to gain more, especially from the local teams here. I think that would be a huge plus. So that's kind of where I am at now and what I see happening for the future.
Nice. Who's an athlete you're like, oh, maybe you guys should look up to Dak Prescott or LeBron James? Is there somebody you kind of throw out there?
LeBron for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I've worked with him, but I know that all these guys that have a team after they get to a certain point, I know they're taking serious. Steph Curry, LeBron James. I just know Steph Curry's performance guy, or I've talked with him a couple of times. Oh, Patrick Mahomes, definitely.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is a good one. Same thing. I know his strength guy as well.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I try to connect with some of those guys, and some of them are not very easy to connect
They're
with.
not approachable. Let's just say what it is, Dr. E. They're not that approachable.
I try though, and as long a lot of them just follow me back, and that's fine. At least we're in that kind of communication. But I do try to pick even strength and conditioning coaches. I try to pick their brains a little bit because I feel like it's closely related. Yeah. Even though it's not rehab, because I do have my strength and conditioning certification as well, but I just got it in order to be a better physical therapist. I have no intention of trying to be a strength coach, a team. So
when you reach out to, trainers that you want to work with or ones you see doing things that you like, what do you look for? What do you look for in somebody you might want to collaborate with professionally?
I usually watch their Instagram pretty closely and see kind of what they put out there. I also see what their mentality is on how they look at certain things. If I see them doing a bunch of passive things or things that I'm like, no, that doesn't really work, or where I'm like, research shows that's not really good or isn't super effective, I don't really tend to follow those people. It's people that I see and I'm like, hey, they have a similar mindset on how to do things. And it's not really a mindset, but more so more research based.
Yeah. The mentality,
because
the approach.
I know that I know that they have kept up with what's the best for that now. Mm-hmm. And people that are ongoing and can collaborate with different people. They're open to change. They know that there's more than one way to get to the answer. those are kind of more the people that I like vibe with or want to collaborate with, because I know that as well. And the people that think they don't know everything. Because even though I feel like I know a lot and I'm always open to learn, I know that I don't know everything, and I know I can learn something from other people. So if they're teaching me stuff, then yeah, I want to have a conversation with them, because I feel like, okay, like I saw a couple of things that they did that I like, and now I've taken it and I'm using it too with some of the things that I saw apply. So I really like that collaboration. I feel like it's important. I feel like we can all help each other, especially, just different therapists or athletic trainers out there, or even strength coaches that are doing good things. If we all just like set egos aside and got together for the betterment of athletes, I think we would be progressing really well. So that's kind of what I look for.
And I think so many people want to be the person that got them back. Yep. Like, honestly, like, I want to be the one when they're standing there on the MVP stage, they're thanking me for getting them back, instead of saying, like, I just want to be a part of that story. Right. And if it's the smallest part of that story, I feel really good, because I know I accomplished and achieved and gave something to someone else. And I think that's where a lot of times I've seen professionally, you look at guys that need to get back, want to get back, and then you have the guys that don't want to ever have to get back. Right? There's two opposites, right? The guys that are like, I don't want to end up like that, or the guys that are like, that'll never happen to me, so yeah, I'm good over here. And there's not a lot in the middle. It's a lot of like one end of the field or the other. And I think that's where, medicine has, for me, a long way to go, because there's so many people. There's not one person that fixes someone, right? And a lot of it goes into like mental health and physical health. And when you can have a strong team around you that is pushing, like you just said, pushing yourselves to grow, right? Like, the true testament of a leader isn't what they're able to give, it's how much they're able to grow. Because you cannot continue to lead a team that you're asking to grow if you don't continue to grow. And so I think that's exactly what you're saying, is you want to work with like-minded people and people who want to see the best for you and can give you, and you can learn and they can teach, and vice versa. So again, Dr. East is changing the world. We're just sitting over here on a podcast, living our best life on a, early morning in Cali over here on our new set, people. And she's changing the world, and we're just learning from her. No.
And I know y'all probably both have noticed this, but I feel like when it comes to professional athletes, like, people just act different as far as people that want to be
They don't act different, girl. They show out. Yeah. They show out. There is no acting different.
It's hard.
Showing
it's
out.
hard. It's definitely hard to collaborate.
Yeah. You stay yourself. I mean, that's the one thing I've always found, right? Is if you are consistently yourself, people find comfort in that, because they know exactly what they're getting. You might not be everybody's cup of tea, but they know what cup of tea they're about to get served. Yep. So like, it's not a, what am I going to get today? This is what it is. And they appreciate that, because so many people will constantly change and evolve to fit the circumstance instead of continue to maintain their own circumstance. Right. Yeah.
No, I believe that. And as far as like in the medical aspect, or even just like when it comes to the team of people, I feel like sometimes there's certain providers or certain individuals that do things, and they're trying to do things that they're not skilled at, or that are outside of what they're supposed to be doing, in order for the athlete to stay just with them, and not have somebody else come in and help and do what they're best at. And so I've run into that a lot, which, over time I've learned, like, that's just how people are. Like, oh yeah, like, so,
you're that one. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So I just stay with what I know, and I do my best in that aspect. And, that's why all of my athletes are word of mouth. Like, it's just like the work and the relationships that I build with them. That's what brings people in. And so I just focus on more so, what am I going to do? And instead of kind of be worried about what everybody else is doing, because when it comes to pros, everybody's trying to do the most.
Big circumstances change, people. I'm telling you. Well, it has been such a pleasure to have you on, and I love what you're doing. I love your mentality. I love to hear people say they're there for the players, and I think it's so important for people like yourself and anyone that is in that, person first, player second mentality. We need more people like that, because at the end of the day, every athlete is just a person, just like me and Megan are normal people on this podcast that they decided we should have. We're just normal people.
Yeah.
And I think watching you find your own path, you talked earlier, it wasn't destined for you. It wasn't destined for me. It wasn't destined for Megan. And I think, when you have the ability to really reach within yourself and continue to drive yourself, but inspire others, that's what I see you doing. And I love seeing you do it. And I love seeing young men and women be so proud of you and proud to work with you. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit, girl.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there championing for you. And I love to see it. And I can't wait to see more of it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So keep doing it. The fourth quarter matters, people. Let's go. Fourth quarter.
Yes.
Fourth quarter. Let's go. So now I know when I see that, I know what I got to do. I'm going to turn up in the fourth quarter.
Love it.
I
So
love
good
it.
to meet you, Dr. E. Thank you so much. And really, I just really look up to you, and you're inspired by your work ethic. And I think that's so important. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
She's changing lives, people.
Yeah,
changing
truly.
lives and fixing bodies. That's your new motto. Changing lives, fixing bodies. Love it.
No,
Well,
I
thanks.
appreciate that.
Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. E. We'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Hi.
All right, Megan, that was amazing.
So good.
She was amazing to have on. Dr. E, literally, she touches like every part of sports
She really does.
that you can watch and see. And she's like global. She's all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was refreshing to hear her say she values her clients before anything else. I mean, we all know that this is a business. We see it happen all the time where guys and ladies are moved, traded, cut, waived, brought on. But for her to say what's important to her is just her athletes.
Yeah.
Was inspiring.
And like, what a badass woman. She literally is a doctor. She owns her own business. Like, she's done so much with her life. She's such an inspiration to young Hispanic women who want to get to that next level. And I just thought she was such an incredible guest. And I would love to just have her come back in. We mentioned it in the interview. But yeah, she was great.
I loved the story of her name, of her company. The fourth quarter recovery was all just from her dad.
I
And like
know.
fourth quarter, like it's go time.
That's so
now every time I see a fourth quarter, I'm going to think of Dr. E.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
to be fair, she just won. She just won in my mind every time I see fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It's going to go back to Dr. E.
Yeah.
She, listening to her talk about the importance of preventative maintenance. I think we see a lot of young athletes that just want to go and make it. And I think she's really taken the approach of, I want you to go and make it, but I want you to be able to sustain it.
Right.
And I think that's where we're seeing like the mind shift in these young athletes. She talked about how LeBron has been very open about what he does in order to be able to perform at the highest level. And she's seen that inspire so many athletes want to put more time and energy into her passion, which is, physical health and mental health and overall well-being holistically as an athlete.
Definitely. And I think something that's so important is really like focusing that, hey, you can come and play this game this week, but you could be out for the whole season.
Right.
Or you could wait a week, really focus on your body, take a break, and then you could last the whole entire season. I think that's something young athletes struggle with. And I think it was great that she touched on it. So just stay in it for the long haul. You got it. I know it might be tough at times, but
no, the long haul is where it's at. And I think I wish she could, I wanted her to give us like a little bit more tea. So Dr. E, you're coming back on like where she's met the threshold because, there are probably times where somebody wants an athlete back and she's had to stand her ground and really be profound in what she knows and what she believes is the best for that athlete. That's not an easy task to stand up and be on that island by yourself.
Not.
And I know she's had to do it many times. I loved having her on. She was an amazing guest.
Yes.
If you guys like this episode, make sure you share, like, subscribe. Go ahead and nominate who you guys want to start having on next. Let's just throw that out there into the universe and let that go. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Her Table. I'm Kate.
I'm Megan.
This is Her Table.